Point of view. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's talk on the subject of reincarnation. So I believe in reincarnation. It's something that I have believed in for a very long time. I have really sort of studied, Buddhism, and of course I was raised Catholic. So Christian, right? Because Catholics are Christians, we believe in Christ, but have really incorporated a lot of Buddhist ideology, and also very spiritual, right? I'm a seer, so I'm very quite psychic, and of course very intuitive, and I think everybody is. It's just a matter of, like, is life, right? You have to put in the time and the effort. So I've been really studying symbolism for a very long time. As you know, I'm a teacher, so I'm into words and stuff like that. I was just very drawn to it from the very beginning. So I've read a lot. So basically what I've read, I've read a lot of books, but mostly the Sacred Contract. Okay, Sacred Contracts was like mind-blowing to me, and a complete, really enlightened me and truly had a huge effect on me positively. And of course the Soul Contract, the seat of the soul, the seat of the soul. So what I've sort of have gathered out of contracts, okay, and reincarnation, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't believe in that, but I do. So just to sort of tell you, I believe that there's reincarnations, and as I used to tell my students, and I tell my spiritual community, is that soulmates, it's sort of, school is, life is schools, school isn't life, and I used to tell my students this. So we're here to be able to expand and to grow, and this lifetime is about us and only us. And as I mentioned in my other point of view, is that you're the main character of your story, so you can make it, and you can create anything that you want, and everything that you so have is something that you have desired and wanted and manifested, whether consciously or not. So be mindful of what your thoughts are, and be mindful of what you want, okay? Because it comes true for for good or bad, and whether you want it or not, okay? Because whatever you put energy in is what's really going to manifest. So as I mentioned, life is school, and so we're here to do our trials and tribulations, to really expand our soul, and so in spirituality and in reincarnation, and I hope this is right, or this is the way I perceive it, is that it is said that, that's why they say that we're all the same. So here in the 3D, right, on Earth, when we're born and we're here living, right, this tangible world, is about, we have hierarchies. We have our parents, that are hierarchical, higher than we are, right? We have positions. We have, so it's all sort of a hierarchy. And so in spirit, we're all the same. And that's why, that sort of comes that, God sort of created us in his image, right? And so it's about reaching divinity, right? And some people might say it's blasphemy or whatever, but it's really trying to attain a divinity within us, because we all have a divinity. And karma and reincarnation, if I understand it correctly, is that in order, there is a cycle that you finally reach where you don't need to reincarnate, because you have met nirvana, you've really have grown, right? And your soul has fully grown. So you either are opted and given the choice to either reincarnate back and be a master and, be of service, right? Or you don't have to reincarnate ever again, all right? And so with that, when we are in spirit, we're all the same. And so sometimes when we come back, based on what I've read, and one of them was a MD, and he was, I think, a psychiatrist or whatever. Wise, I think, is his name, and I forget what his book is. So please, if you remember, put it there. But so they did he did a lot of hypnosis and a lot of past life regressions, which are very, very interesting. And if you have the opportunity to do so, they're very interesting. They're very powerful, and sometimes you have to be ready for it. The first time I did one, I wasn't ready for it, and I was like shaking for quite a while. So but make sure that you get somebody reputable if you're interested in that. But anyway, so he took all these notations on these people that he was studying, his clients, his patients, And that's why he sort of became very spiritual. And of course, he was very mocked because, he saw that there was a pattern. People talked about their past lives. They talked about changing of roles once they came back into this lifetime. So maybe, maybe one time they were the mother, and then the other time they were, they were the child to their mother, or sometimes they were the mother to their mother. Okay, so the roles sort of always change, okay, based on whatever it is that you need to grow on, and whatever sacred contract that you decided to to go into. And as I mentioned, possibly in the other point of view, is that even we're all sort of soulmates, and even our enemies are soulmates, okay? But it is important to understand that once we're here, it's important to sort of be able to figure out our life, right? If we're not awakened, which means that we don't understand that there's a higher power, or there's an ascension, right? Or that that we come into this life in order to grow, right? Then we're unawoken, and we just go through life and we think life is really happens to us, as opposed to us happening to life, right? And us really taking full reins of our life. So it's important to understand that everybody that we come across in basically has an agenda. All right, they have an agenda for you, whether good or bad, whether conscious or not conscious. Your parents might want you to marry someone that you won't have so much such a hard time with, maybe somebody prosperous, and so they mean well, right? But maybe that's not something that you want, or maybe that's not your growth, or maybe that doesn't appeal to you. So it's important for you to understand that in the end, your decisions are your decisions for good or bad. And if you make per se bad decisions, right, it's going to be growth. Now, and so be mindful of what people tell you, and be mindful of really giving people that power that they have over you to to tell you what to do, okay? Even if they are your parents, or even if they are your siblings, or even if it's your spouse or your kids, understand that even though they live with you, or they think they know you exceptionally well, the only person that really should know you is yourself. And if you don't, then I encourage you and I challenge you to really get to know yourself. And I think that as we go through life, I think there's different ages and different seasons and different chapters, and so we grow. When I went to the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage, I didn't realize I was so American. And of course I'm of Hispanic origin, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just didn't realize how my comfortableness, right, of being an American really affected me. I was sort of irritated that the coffee wasn't the size of Starbucks, right? I was sort of irritated that, when I finished my walk, I would get to the little towns like at 2:00, and I was starving and nothing was open. And so I realized that I was truly sort of set in my ways, and I really thought that I was very multicultural and bicultural and very flexible. And what my camino really showed me was that I wasn't as flexible as I thought. I wasn't maybe so going with the flow, and I was resistant to a lot of things. So it taught me a lot about myself, okay? So I encourage you to take challenges on that will teach you to grow and expand and truly see who you are. But having said that, going back to the original conversation, is that you have to understand that your decision is your decision, and be mindful who you give up your power for, or that that you sort of ask somebody, well, what about this date, or what about this man, or whatever, and you take their recommendations to heart. And I don't think that you should. And everybody has a specific agenda for you, whether good or bad, whether consciously or not, they have an agenda for you. So be mindful. And remember that the people that are telling you and giving you recommendations and suggestions on your life and on important important decisions that you have to make have not gone through what you went through. Even if you've lived with them, even if they love you very much, even if they want the best for you, the only one that understands what is right for oneself is yourself, okay? So be mindful with that. What that brings in is also understanding that everybody has their own agendas, okay? So just because they're your father or your mother, or your siblings or your spouse or your children, doesn't mean that you shouldn't maybe say, well, that doesn't work for me, or allow for them to take advantage of you, or maybe manipulate you to maybe taking, a different road or a different decision. Okay. So be mindful of that. And as I mentioned, sometimes we get into these situations that we've created ourselves. And so be very mindful of not allowing that. And it is important in this lifetime to really grow as best as you can, but also to take care of yourself. As I tell my students, you're not going to be going with someone that's saying, hey, at 2:00 in the morning, 2:00 in the morning in the alleyway. Be smart about life, and don't allow for somebody to really pull you in, right? Or drag you into the stampede of their life. If they're stampeding over you, right? And it's called in Spanish, llevarte entre las patas, which means stampeding you. So that means that they're bringing you in and they're just, llevándote por las patas. That means that they're taking you through their legs, and it really means of a stampede. Don't allow it, pull back. Why are you going to allow, even if it's your husband or your spouse, not necessarily a husband, a spouse, a mother, a father, someone that you consider as an authority figure in your life, to be able to pull you in intentionally and unintentionally to the stampede that they're in. Get out of it. So it's your responsibility to keep yourself safe, okay? And to understand that everybody has different agendas, for good or bad for you, and sometimes they mean well. Sometimes people, they really mean well, but maybe that's not the path that you want, or maybe that's not the decision that you want. That's why it's so important to really understand the growth that you have, and really try to be as independent as you can, and be able to stand by yourself independently, right? And it's not, and in this case, there's been, the way life has been, we see that more in men, that they can stand independently more so than women, even though women have very much struggled to be in that position. And it's not just about getting divorced, it could go either for men or for women. It can be that something happens catastrophically, somebody gets injured, and that's going to affect your life forever, or it's going to affect your finances, or someone dies, and it's going to affect your finances, and here you are sort of stuck because you never really grew, and you never really put in the same effort to yourself that you have for everyone else. And everybody has the choice to do whatever it is that they want. If they don't want to be independent, if they want to, just really pour their life into their children, make sure that you understand the repercussions of that, and understanding what your choice is. All these trade wives deals that I've been seeing, make sure that what you're not seeing and is not an illusion, or understand that sometimes we just see snippets of pieces and scenes and scenarios in life that we don't know what the whole deal is. And so sometimes, we envy something that maybe that person cost that person a long time, right? There was a saying on Instagram that said, my grandmother always said, don't envy anybody because you don't know what they cost them. And and that is an absolute truth. You don't know what it cost that person. You don't know, if you're seeing that person and it looks like tremendous, that it really is. And maybe it might be for them, but it might not be for you. Just to close out sort of like the wives deals, or trad wives or whatever. And this just as an example, one of the ladies has the baby, and then she has another 2 or 3 kids. I mean, I don't know, I'm a mother, but I would never let the kids be near the stove. It sort of looks like it's a wooden stove too. I mean, that thing is super hot all the time, if anybody's been near a wooden stove. And then, for her to get the pot without any pot holders or anything, and the pot was supposedly boiling. I mean, I don't know about you all, but it's super hot. And then it's also very unsafe. You always want the kids. She had a newborn, stuck to her, and she was, switching off water. You just don't know what might happen. So I realized that was sort of staged, or it sort of seemed like that, or maybe that person was super irresponsible, or I don't know. There wasn't any type of precautions having to do with, a hot stove and hot pots and hot water that was boiling. All right. So be mindful and accept what you see, and take everything with a grain of salt. And maybe you shouldn't take so many recommendations or ask for so many recommendations, because the only person that has lived your life is you. So prepare, enjoy, expand, grow, learn, you know, be happy, and choose whatever it is that you want, that in the end can help you sustain by yourself, whatever that may be. Okay? Love and light. Ciao.